All right, we are live, but we will let it breathe just for a couple of moments here. Hang tight, guys, and bring on Facebook. Hope everyone's had a great week. It's been a lot of fun, and we're good. I think almost. Come on, second Facebook page. Welcome in, everybody. It's the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. Zack, I'm trying to remember exactly when the roster moves were made, but you wrote them up for our site, and I actually had a chance to talk about the Goodrich signing and the Broncos moving on from McAllister, but I don't think anyone here has heard your take, unless they read the article, which I'm sure a lot of guys did, but your gut reaction to the Broncos signing Goodrich and cutting Tanner McAllister.
What's today, June 19th, Chad? It feels every bit that much talking about this kind of thing. But yeah, it's basically a bottom of the roster type of move. They added a cornerback and released a defensive back or corner or whatever McAllister was. I don't know much about either, to be honest with you, except for what I explored and what I wrote about them. McAllister was a third-year player. He was a practice squad guy, signed a reserve future contract. Goodrich had a stint on the Philly or the Giants practice squad, someone's practice squad. He appeared in 4 games for the Eagles. Hasn't done much other than that in the NFL. He played for UFL's Birmingham Stallions, same team where Dondre Tillman played, and the Broncos signed him from there. He had pass breakups. He started 6 games last year. He had an injury. So, again, just a bottom of the roster type of cornerback who I expect to vie for a practice squad spot.
Yeah, we'll see. I also read a little bit about Goodrich and talked to some people. Very good special teams guy. So special teams still being very highly prioritized in Denver by the Sean Payton regime because it helps you win games. And it also can be the reason you lose games, as we learned last year. Papa Bear, hope you're hanging in there, big dog, and moving in the right direction. It's great to see you tonight. Thank you for the super chat. He says, good evening, Broncos country, hashtag 13and4+. I love it, dude. Staying positive on the team front, because we're staying positive on the Papa Bear front, dude. Hope you're doing well.
Yes, sir, David. Thank you so much, man. And I love the positivity literally with his record prediction, Chad. 13and4+. That's the floor for David. I love it, man.
Sam Bam, and by the way, guys, tonight we're probably going to keep it pretty tight, not very long of a show. I can only be on for about 15, 20 minutes because I have a thing going on tonight. I'll talk more about that here in a minute, but just so you know, anything burning, not to say, it's not like we're in the middle of a hailstorm of breaking Broncos news anyway, but we have plenty of stuff to talk about. But if you have any burning topics, questions, get them in the chat. Sam jumps in to say, evening, guys, have to do this super from my phone since my internet's down. Bummer, dude. Anyhow, go Broncos. I'm off to New York City for the first time tomorrow. That's cool. And he says in a second, super, never mind. My internet just came back. Let's go. Awesome, dude. Yeah, I'll never forget the first time being a guy that, is from the West and big open spaces and mountains and this and that. The first time I went to New York City, man, I was like, I felt like I was on a different planet, dude. And being in Manhattan, yep. I was like, what is this? You see it in movies, this and that. You think, till you've been there. And I don't say that as a bad thing. I'm just saying, couldn't be more different. To be able to stand on a 4-way corner, Zach, look each of the 4 ways and see skyscrapers as far as the eye can see, boggles anyone who lives in the West. If you've seen that for the first time in person, it kind of boggles your mind a little.
Totally relatable, man. I grew up in the Florida suburbs, man, and 3 words describe that: flat, hot, and stupid. And like you said, looking around and seeing the buildings and all the sights and the sounds, the taxis, the billboards in Times Square. It is a fantastic city, Sam, on its own. I would just recommend you be cautious. Stay safe out there.
Yeah, so Sam, indeed, brother. And Jimmy, yeah, dude, that's why I got to keep it short tonight. Bridge the Gap's playing a show tomorrow night in Denver. It's going to be awesome. And, the thing is if you're going to perform as a band, you kind of have to rehearse, otherwise you can make a fool of yourself and waste everybody's time. So that's what we're doing tonight because we've got the show tomorrow and all the guys come together. So I got to be a little bit tight tonight, but stoked to see you tomorrow. It's going to be a blast. If you guys are interested in going, it's at a place called, no lie, Your Mom's House in Denver. I want to see you there. Show starts probably around 7. So we'll see you. We'll see you tomorrow night, Denverites. It's going to be a gas. Ralph, do we have the imposter Luke Patterson on with the amazing Zach tonight? I'd love to see a show with Luke's energy. So last night they were making jokes. They're like, this is not the Luke I remember, or this guy's much better looking than Luke Patterson. It was actually the first time, which is a joke, and everybody knows this. But it was the first time I'd ever done a podcast with Thomas Hall. So that was fun. It was an experience. But Ralph, good to see you, big dog. And we'll see if we can make that happen. Right now, Luke's taking a little time off, but he'll be back. So we'll see what we can do about that. Zach, kind of fun. Let me see what Mr. Producer's saying here. Yes. Kind of fun. ESPN, it's off season. So it's, the time for stuff like this, but they released their all quarter century team, which is meant to feature the best players at each position of this century, right? And the coaches, which is really cool. And multiple Denver Broncos made the list. And let me do some scratch and sniff so everybody can see this. It's kind of cool. I'm sure most of you have read the article, but in case you haven't, this is a lot of fun and it's a great conversation starter as well. Thank you, Scott. All right, let's. So first things first, they included coaches, Zach, and the son of Bum was given his props. Wade Phillips as the defensive coordinator. And this is what they said about him real fast. Phillips, not only, because it's not just about what he did in Denver. Quote, Phillips not only has a record of coordinating strong defenses and multiple stops, he also has a great record of improving those defenses. He took the Falcons defense from 24th in DVOA in 2001 to 10th in 2002. Took the Chargers from 28th in 03 to 9th in 04. Took the Texans, so on and so forth. Then he gets to the Broncos, number 1 in defensive DVOA. Both years he was there, 15 and 16, with a Super Bowl ring. So there you have it, Zach. Son of Bum as the defensive coordinator of the all-quarter century team, and he was, of course, appreciative of that.
I appreciate the stats to back it up, but he passes the eye test. That's all I needed to see when I watched the film, or I watched it live back then, Chad. It wasn't just an elite defense. It wasn't just a Super Bowl winning defense. It was one of the best defenses ever constructed, right up there with the 2000 Ravens, the 85 Bears. They were that damn good, and I'm so glad that Wade is getting his flowers now.
No doubt, dude. And one of the things that made him so good, aside from, of course, his X's and O's and how much his players loved him and how he was able to bond with his players and relate, but his ability to make the right call in the right situation with cojones, very unique, and I give him props. All right. Peyton Manning, Zach, one of 3 quarterbacks who made the all-quarter century team for what it's worth. Tom Brady was QB1, then Peyton Manning, then Patrick Mahomes. And I think if you're really looking at this as the 24 years that have existed, the 25 seasons that have existed in the new century, Manning's either 1 or 2. He's got to be 1 or 2. I think this is pretty fair, the 3 quarterbacks they chose.
Peyton Manning, enough said. Next player on the list. He's Peyton freaking Manning. And we know it's not freaking, but he was that damn good.
I guess I better pull up the ESPN if you guys want to know who, because I see we've got some questions, some bummers that Von Miller did not make this all-quarter century team. We can get into that if you want. But here are the next guys that made the all-quarter century team. You got DeMarcus Ware, who had a phenomenal on his way to the Hall of Fame career in Dallas well before he signed in Denver, part of that big star-studded 2014 free agent class of John Elway's. A year or so after that, they go on to, well, I guess it was more like 2 years or so after that, they actually win Super Bowl 50. But DeMarcus Ware, Zach, the one thing that people miss a lot when they think about the impact he had, and he, so cool for him to finally get a ring, and he got it in Denver. But the impact he had on Von Miller as a mentor and as an influence, Broncos fans should be eternally grateful for that, because look back at 2013 and how it went off the rails for Von for what could have been if DeMarcus Ware doesn't come in about the time he came in.
That's exactly right. This is the only debate we can really have here. And as Scott was mentioning before the podcast tonight, there were so many talented edge rushers and sack artists during that time that it's really tough to nail down just a few to make this list. So DeMarcus had a great career with the Cowboys. He had an even better one, I think, because he won a ring with the Broncos. But the way they posit it here is that the Broncos were really good with Von Miller, but it was DeMarcus Ware that was the cherry on top. It was what put them over and won them a title. That's what I think, the criteria for why he made the list here.
So there were 4 edge rushers chosen. DeMarcus Ware is the first, Jared Allen the second, Myles Garrett the third, Julius Peppers the fourth. So, and look, I understand why Broncos fans are upset about Vaughn, and it does feel like a little bit of a sting, like, Myles Garrett, but you got to represent all the eras of this quarter century. And if you look at, what was it, Scott, 16th all-time sacks, Von Miller all-time, it ranks like 16th. Top 20, he's great, dude. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying I understand why they went the direction that they did. But Zach, we move on. Champ Bailey, the next one, pretty obvious, although I will say not the first cornerback. Can you guess who they had as the first corner?
I don't know.
Darrelle Revis.
Okay, good choice.
So Revis, Champ, Rondé Barber as the nickel, Richard Sherman, Patrick Peterson. Those were the cornerbacks taken. But Champ, what can you say? Champ is phenomenal. The only bummer about Champ is that, unfortunately, he wasn't able to get a ring. But he did get a chance for a ring, Super Bowl 48. But that offense, the Broncos offense, just didn't show up that day.
Chad, I apologize. You caught me a little off guard. I was pulling up the sack list on the previous topic that Scott sent us. And now I'm wondering, because in full disclosure, I didn't see the entirety of the ESPN list. We just narrowed it down to the Broncos. How is Myles Garrett, really quickly, on there? He has 102.5 career sacks. Von Miller has 129.5. And his Super Bowl title, Super Bowl MVP. Myles Garrett played in Cleveland his whole career. That to me, there I can see Broncos fans being upset, not because Ware made it, but because what's the argument for Myles Garrett over Vaughn?
I think the only argument, and I'm not making this argument, I'm telling you like what I assume the rationale is trying to represent the different eras of, if I can get there, the different eras of this quarter century. So if someone had to be the odd man out, it's not going to be Jared Allen. It's probably Julius Peppers. You can't take him off either. Myles Garrett, I do understand it. Do I necessarily agree with it? That's a different thing. But yeah, Zach. So there's that. You got Champ Bailey. And then even though most people, Zach, do not, think of Brian Dawkins as a Bronco, he did play 3 years in Denver. And he was a first team All-Pro one of the years. 2 of the 3 years he was in Denver, he made the Pro Bowl. So he was very impactful, but he retired, ended up going back and actually working in the Eagles front office. So kind of in the similar sense of like an Elway. He'll always be known as more of an Eagle than a Bronco, although, of course, Elway didn't play for 2 different teams. But the point being that he ended up working in like a scouting front office role with his team.
We always say, like, what's the definition of a Hall of Fame player or a tremendous player is, can you tell the story of the NFL without them, or a story of a secondary or a defense without them? And when you think of the old school Philly defenses, or even his stint with the Broncos, you do think of Brian Dawkins. So I understand that.
Guys, I'm sorry to do this to you, but I have to dip on out of here. But we're only 13, 14 minutes into this thing. So I'm going to stick for a couple more minutes, but this is, I'm almost out of time, unfortunately, but Zach's going to cruise with you to make it at least a half an hour show. So stick with us, of course. Good to see you, Greg. Hope you're doing well, big dog. 2 nights in a row, always a joy. Let's see. Rodney's saying Orlando Franklin. Yeah, Orlando Franklin's not making the all quarter century team just because, unfortunately, he didn't have any accolades, and he didn't really play that long. If you look at Orlando Franklin's career, but I love Franklin too. He was a beast, Rodney, for what it's worth. He was a beast at right tackle, but he was even better when they moved him inside before he left. But anyway, Zach,
Yep.
let me kick back to one other topic that's kind of fun. I want your take on this. The Broncos have so NFL.com, obviously none of the rookies have played yet, so you can't exactly name an all rookie team, but NFL.com projected what they think basically is going to be the all rookie team of 2025. 3 Broncos made it. Zadeh Barron, RJ Harvey. Can you guess the third one, Zach? I'll give you a hint. Shrimp on the Barbie.
Oh, Crawshaw.
So that's kind of cool, dude. You think about it. We're talking about a 10-win team, made the playoffs, flood the roster with really good free agent pickups, and that if you're going to have 3 of your rookie class be that impactful year one, if it shakes out that way, that's quite the harbinger.
I'm super pumped up about the Broncos draft class and RJ Harvey, obviously. But again, you kind of caught me off guard because I was thinking about another story on MHH that we wrote up recently, or I think it was Eric, that PFF, they ranked every team's, Chad, NFL running back core, and the Broncos checked in at 28th overall, so 5th worst in the NFL. And the analysis doesn't match the ranking like usual because they said, if you have a second, I know you have to go here.
No, go.
Harvey ranked 8th among FBS running backs with a 94.2 PFF rushing grade over the past 2 seasons. And they, J.K. Dobbins, he had a modest 67.1 rushing grade in Los Angeles before his injury last season. So if one's at least modest, decent, and one was really good, how is that 5th worst in the NFL? How do you project it that way? PFF is going to PFF like always. I just thought it was, as usual, hilarious.
Yeah, incongruent, right? When things are out of balance, don't make sense, illogical. But I mean, on one hand, I can understand why you'd be like, hey, a lot more potential in that room than proven production. Yeah. Well, look at some of the other rankings there and where different teams finished, and it's conspicuous. That's just a thing. I mean, like by this point, it's a trope, and everybody's probably sick of hearing about how PFF has it out somehow for some reason for the Broncos. But either way, I'm stoked for RJ Harvey. I'm stoked for J.K. Dobbins. That 1-2 punch, Zach, is formidable, bro.
I feel like the Broncos are just my little brother. I feel the need to always defend them. Even though we know it's coming, Chad, I have that instinct. I don't know why.
All right, let's just grab this one, then I got to go. Rodney says, is Devon Vele dealing with a knee? No, I'm not sure if it's a knee, Zach. I'm pretty sure all that's known is that it's just lower leg. So yeah. I don't think it's knee. I think it's below the leg, or below the knee. But I'm not certain of that. Have you heard different?
I've heard an ankle. I've seen things floating out there about an ankle. It's like somewhere along the leg, like you said. And we don't know because Sean Payton got pretty feisty when asked about Devon Vele. But he did say that Vele will be back, a full participant in training camp. So cross our fingers, no worries for now.
All right, guys, listen, I've got to go. Zach will carry you through for the next few minutes, but
is he
here you go.
Going to keep him out like
No. He's going to be full go, start a training camp. Everything's good.
Devon Vele.
We should be. That's it. That's it. Did you hear me?
Okay.
That's it means. That means it stops.
Could you imagine if you're like his kid and you drank the last of the milk in the fridge or something, you know? The hammer's getting dropped, bro.
I'm sure Megan Payton has some stories to share, but I love when he gets that feisty.
Guys, I love you. I appreciate you. I'll see some of you tomorrow night in Denver at the club. It's called Your Mom's House, Bridge the Gap. We're going to have some fun. I'll be back Sunday night. It'll be a gas. So, Zach, Scott, have a great weekend, fellas. Chat. Love you guys. I'll see you in a couple days' time. And some of you tomorrow night.
Have a great show, brother.
All right. Thanks,
Safe
brother.
travels.
See you.
Yes, sir. All right. So I'll, what are we at? 18 minutes solo show. You know what, guys, I love getting into these. I'll keep it for about 20, 25, depending on the chat. Maybe less. It's up to you guys. I don't know. We don't have much more to talk about. It is the off season. It is June 19th, and we already got into a couple topics. So if you have any questions or any comments based on what we said, any disagreements, any debates, fire them into the chat, and they'll be had tonight. Otherwise, we're going to keep it relatively short here. Scott, anything we didn't get to yet, chat-wise? I mean, Pearl's wishing Chad a good time. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to talk about one thing. I guess we'll keep it a little shorter tonight. The Broncos did announce training camp dates for anyone who's interested. July 22nd, the veterans will report to training camp. July 16th, that Wednesday, the previous week, the rookies will report. So little over a month until the Broncos are in training camp. NFL preseason is around the corner, and football season is going to be in full swing. And I literally cannot wait because this 6-week period is going to be awful. But we'll get through it together because you guys are amazing. For us, though, it's the most challenging part of the offseason. Absolutely. A couple other stories that I wanted to tackle while we're both on here tonight. You guys aren't going to see me for a week either. I am going on my vacation for the first time in I can't even remember, from Sunday, and I'll be back on the following Monday's pod. So Chad, and I don't know if Scott's going to hop on, but Chad will hold it down for sure. But this is going to be my last 20 minutes or so, 15 minutes or so with you guys on here. And I wanted to get into a couple things before I depart. We covered the rookie team. We covered PFF because I went on a rant. We covered the training camp. We covered the release of McAllister, the signing of Goodrich. I will mention, I will make amends about one thing, okay? I always clown on PFF, and rightfully so, because it seems like they have a anti-Sean Payton, Broncos, Bo Nix bias. It's obvious by now. Like Chad said, it's just a trope. But they did rank the Broncos receiving core recently, and the ranking actually rose from last year at this time. So the ranking, according to Trevor Sikkema of PFF, is 22nd overall in the NFL. They were 30 overall last season. Now, there was a lot of more. I think there were a couple more. I appreciate that, Phil. Absolutely, I appreciate that. Thank you. It's much needed, and I'll come back spitting more vinegar than you already see. But I think it's a fair ranking considering, there's still the question marks with, we don't even know what Vele is, really. He hasn't proven himself anything beyond just a hopeful. But same with Troy Franklin. They drafted Pat Bryant. He might be a little bit of a project until he's full bloom. Cortland Sutton, though, is established coming off a great season with Bo Nix. He's a wide receiver one, maybe a low-end wide receiver one compared to some other teams, but he is a wide receiver one. Marvin Mims is way more established than he was this time last season, not just as a gadget player. I saw there's another story. We can get into it, but NFL.com or some outlet ranked Marvin Mims one of the Broncos' top luxury players because he's a gadget player. He's more than that. He's more than a kick returner. He's more than just a guy who could take a couple of hands off. He's more than Tavon Austin was. He's a legitimate wide receiver who made some amazing head-turning, jaw-dropping plays last season. So I understand the ranking, and I'm glad. I know 22nd overall isn't great, and I could pull up the list if you want. I don't have it in front of me. I'm sure there's a bone to pick there, but at least the Broncos are getting their due in some way. So I will give PFF that. Rodney's saying we'll see A.T. Perry. That's funny. Yeah, the mysterious A.T. Perry, who we know little about. But Sean Payton, speaking of injuries to Vele, he was a little more forthcoming on A.T. Perry. I was it a knee, but Sean Payton said that he's going to miss maybe a week into training camp. But other than that, we'll see him full go over the course of the preseason, and we'll see what he can do. We all like his potential. We all like his frame. We all like the fact, I guess, he came from the Saints. But we'll see. Rodney says, what's your record prediction for this season, Zach? Appreciate the question, Rodney, and the interaction tonight. Again, guys, we're going to keep it a little tighter tonight. I don't see the chat being that active. It's not that many people on. I understand that, but that's the case for tonight. Record prediction-wise, I'm not as confident yet, quite frankly. I don't want to gas you all up. I don't want to BS you. I think it's David that predicts 13-4 plus. I love it. Love the confidence. I can't look you guys in the eye and tell you that from my heart. I think the last season's ceiling is this season's floor. And last season's ceiling realistically was like 10-7. So the floor to me, Rodney, for this team, which got better, Bo Nix another year in Sean Payton's system, defense is better, yada, yada. 10-7 is the floor. The ceiling is where it gets tricky. And if you ask me this after that Philly game, and I don't mean to keep harping on it, but it is a barometer. The reigning Super Bowl champions, good defense, dynamic quarterback. How the Broncos stack up in that game will tell us a lot. But I think the ceiling could be 12-5. Realistically, I just don't know about 13-4 yet. I want to see, as we always talk about, how the Broncos fare against the other superpowers in the AFC, not just Kansas City, but the Buffaloes, the Baltimores, the Cincinnatis, even Chargers, who swept the Broncos last season. So I'm going to say 10-7 is the floor for the Broncos, and that's all barring health. I knock wood so hard that my screen shook. And I'll say 12-5, realistically, objectively, as the ceiling. And I think even better, potentially, some things go their way, injury luck. The Chiefs don't take a dynamic a rebound step forward in that way. It could be 13-4, but 12-5 is a realistically good goal to shoot for. And it's not even just how they finish. Really quickly, we'll put a bow on it. It's not just the record. It's what they do with the record. It's what they do when they get in the postseason. I don't want them to squeak in there to the wild card round, face a better team, which Buffalo was at that point, and then get blown out. The air was let out of the balloon really quickly. I want them to get in there legitimately on their own, make some noise, make a run, and we'll go from there and we'll judge them accordingly. So 10-7, 12-5. That's my variance on the Broncos record. I appreciate that, Rodney. And I'm just telling you, that's as of right now, June 19th. Let's see how training camp transpires. Let's see how the preseason goes, and ask us again in August. Shiloh, appreciate the super $2. Appreciate you tonight, man. Solo pods are tough. Way to hold it down, Zach. I absolutely love solo pod, Shiloh. I don't know if you were around, but I used to do these 5-6 nights, sometimes 7 nights a week on Facebook Live when we were under the 24/7 sports umbrella. I love getting on here and ranting. I love just being able to say as much as it comes to my chatty brain. Shiloh saying, who do you think may be a surprise team leader in a statistical category? Example, Barron in interceptions, Sanders in tackles, etc. I don't think Sanders is going to be on the field enough to get the team leader record there, Shiloh. So I'll say for tackles, that's easy. If he stays healthy, Alex Singleton, the guy's a tackling machine. That I will say about him. Not his biggest fan, but he is good tackling. Be it maybe 5 yards past the line of scrimmage, but he is a good tackler. Interceptions, it's easy to say PS2, but not really because they don't throw to his side of the field. Barron's a good call, but with other players in the secondary, I'm going to say Riley Moss. I'm going to say Riley Moss. I second-guessed myself. I was thinking of a safety, Hufanga or Brandon Jones. I'm going to say Riley Moss, and that's a hot take, but I think he's going to have a Marvin Mims type breakout season where he's a little more on the map. He might not be PS2 stature yet, but I think he's going to be a more of a household name, and he was getting to that point, but he's going to get a lot of attention. He's going to be picked on no matter where he lines up. So I see that Scott says Brandon Jones. That's why I hesitated. I wanted to say Brandon Jones or Talanoa, but I'll go Riley Moss just to be different. Hot take. I think he has a really good season, and I think he's motivated, Shiloh, from the Barron selection. Good question, though. And I think Bo Nix leads the Broncos in touchdown passes, by the way. Hot take there. Roy, hey there, Zach and Scott. I'm 2 steps away for coming to the meet and greet. Does that mean that you're coming and that you're getting closer to coming, Roy? I hope I'm not misinterpreting that. Okay. That's awesome. We're so happy to see you there. We're excited about it. It's tough to process, though, because it's so far away. Like right now, we're in that fog of the offseason, and late October feels like a year, but it's going to be here around the corner, and I'm so excited that you will be there against the Giants, whipping the behind of Russell Wilson. Ronnie says, I'm looking forward to PS2 versus Neighbors. I mean, PS2 versus anyone. He has quite the gauntlet this season. I put that on Twitter a couple weeks ago. His receiver matchups this season, pretty daunting, but it's PS2. Defensive Player of the Year. I am not worried about him in the least. And speaking of, appreciate that, Shiloh. Yeah, I mean, we'll keep it. I mean, I'll take the question seriously. Rushing, that's the tricky one. Receiving is going to be Cortland Sutton. Like out of the tight ends, it's going to be Evan Ingram. But the rushing, who's going to lead the Broncos in rushing? I'm going to say RJ Harvey. I think Dobbins is a good mentor, security blanket, safety measure, a good 1A or 1B or whatever. They're going to be used in rotation. He's going to get going, though, RJ Harvey. He's going to get his groove. He's going to adapt to the NFL fairly quickly. All my speculation, all my prediction. And he's going to end up leading the Broncos in rushing when all is said and done. Throw that up, Scott. I'm sorry. I think it was Rodney. I did want to pull up some. Okay, it was about PS2. We were talking about PS2. I get in these rants and I get going. Do you guys think PS2 can repeat his performance like last year? We were talking about him before I got back on that subject. I mean, repeat in what way, though, Rodney? Do you mean repeat award-winning way? And we were asked about that last week. Can he repeat as Depoy? And we said probably not. That's a big task to ask of him. But in terms of repeating as the best corner in the NFL, not Sauce Gardner, by the way. I don't know who's listening, but it's not Sauce Gardner. Repeating as the best corner in the NFL, a lockdown, future Hall of Famer at this rate. He's going to continue playing like that, barring injury. And I know we had the concussion. It's always tenuous with him, and he wants to play wide receiver. No thanks. You're not exposed to injury any more than you have to be. I think he's going to continue being the best corner in the NFL and a linchpin of the Broncos defense. So I'll say yes in a basic way to that question, Rodney. Scott's chiming in. Surtain is the number one defensive back in, I don't know why I glitched on that, in DPOY odds, but about 11th overall behind all the edge rushers. Yeah, and that was the argument too. A lot of people thought Trey Hendrickson should have won Defensive Player of the Year over PS2, and it typically goes to pass rushers, but who cares? PS2 was holding up that award as the best player in the NFL. Phil, hey, Zach, how would you rank the impact of each of our draftees? I mean, in their respective positional groups, Phil, I'll break it down. I don't know why Crawshaw came to mind, but he's the starting punter, so that's easy. Barron, he's going to get in where he fits in. And even Sean Payton said, I don't see him at safety, but he can play some nickel. He can play some outside. He's going to be moved around. He's going to be near the box. He's going to be in coverage. So the impact of having a blue chipper in the secondary, maybe a partner in crime, another lockdown guy with PS2 is immeasurable. That's one of the most important positions on an NFL team. RJ Harvey, that is maybe the biggest impact of any draft pick that the Broncos made because they were so dire at running back. He's going to have, I think, a tremendous season. Genuinely, I think he's going to be 1,000-yard, maybe 1,000-yard from scrimmage guy, rushing and receiving, but he's going to be the favored back. He's going to be who Sean Payton is excited about giving the ball to and game plans around as the season goes on. So by far, RJ Harvey's the biggest impact. Pat Bryant, another guy who's going to get in where he fits in because the Broncos are so stacked at receiver, but we don't know what Devon Vele is. He's supposed to be the long-term number 2 or maybe the successor to Courtland Sutton. We don't know. He's unproven. Troy Franklin, unproven. Marvin Mims is never really going to be a number 1 guy. Pat Bryant, though, could come in. He's had a tremendous offseason, really good minicamp. He looked good against air with his route running, very smooth, very fluid. He could be a long-term number 2, but we don't know. So the jury's still out there, like with Barron, because the positional group is so murky. Who did I miss? Savion Jones, another guy. I'm a little more confident maybe than most that he's going to be a successor to someone, either Zach Allen or probably JFM. But I'm really excited about that pick, even if Jones doesn't play all that much because of the players in front of him. So I'll say moderate impact for him. Caleb Lohner, a lot of Broncos country, I would suggest pumping the brakes a little bit. I know he's 6'7". I know every catch he made was a touchdown last season, but he's such a raw diamond in the rough that you still have to polish and clean off and mold to a legitimate NFL long-term starting caliber tight end. He's not going to take Evan Ingram's job anytime soon. So I don't think did I miss anyone, Scott? Is that it? No, I think chat. Q Robinson. I think that's the only player I missed. And I'll say this really quickly. I'll get to Shiloh. I was a little confused as to why they spent that pick on an edge rusher, considering the edge rushers they already had. But he is making me eat my words. Full disclosure, honesty. He looked amazing in rookie minicamp, in mandatory practices, off the edge, giving the offensive lines trouble. So I don't know how much he's going to play, considering there's so many players in front of him. I want to see more of Jonah Ellis. I want to see more of Dondre Tillman. You can't take Benito or Cooper off the field. But Q Robinson, stash him away. Can't have too many pass rushers. I am really happy with him. Shiloh, random historical question. Is Sutton a top 10 Broncos receiver in team history? I think he's still behind Brandon Marshall despite more years. Marshall is the more household name, Shiloh, for sure. He had I don't know, Scott, did he have more receiving yards? I'm asking just rhetorically. We'd have to pull it up, but I want to say he was more accomplished receiving-wise, and he has more cachet around the NFL. So I would agree, even though he played for other teams and Courtland Sutton hasn't, that Brandon Marshall is a better receiver. I don't know. That's subjective. It's like how you feel about Jay Cutler. He played for the Bears, and he had a stint away from Denver. Sutton's ahead of Marshall with Denver. Okay, so there you go. Sutton's 9th in yards among Broncos receivers. Maybe I answered it in too much of a Bronco-centric scope then, because by the facts, by the letter of the law, then Sutton's the better receiver. But I just think in NFL canon, if you asked a random fan off the street, they would identify more with Brandon Marshall for better or for worse than with Courtland Sutton. But a good question, Shiloh, for sure. What else? What other okay, we'll take this from Shiloh. It's the Shiloh and Rodney show tonight. Okay, it's at 35 minutes. It is really slow. I'm sure Scott wants to get out of here too. I'm going to make this the 2-minute warning. If you have any last-minute supers, questions, comments, concerns, get them in. I will answer them after I take this from Shiloh. What are some other upcoming contracts beyond this year that are a question mark and possible upcoming contract issues beyond this year? I mean, let's just tackle what the Broncos have in front of them right now. If you're talking about, I'm not trying to put you on blast, Shiloh, but if you're talking about 2026, they still have 2025 issues to sort out. What are we doing with Courtland Sutton? What are we doing with Zach Allen? Nick Benito? JFM wants a contract. Malcolm Roach. You can't resign everyone. So it's tough for me to answer, like we're talking about like Garrett Bowles or Mike McGlinchey. A lot of the players that you'd be asking about for 26, Shiloh, it's dependent on how they play this season, and the Broncos will take it and go from there. But they have a lot of business still left in front of them. They haven't even signed all their draft picks yet. We're talking about Zadeh Barron and RJ Harvey. They're not even under contract yet. So how about we tackle those issues and then the veterans, and then we'll talk about 2026. Yeah, I mean, he was asking about McGlinchey and also Ben Powers. Again, whether they keep them or not, they're under contract for this season. And whether they keep them or not beyond this season, Shiloh, my personal opinion, I think depends on how they play this season. But do they really have anyone in the pipeline that's going to take over? Is Palcho the next Mike McGlinchey? Who's taking over for Ben Powers at guard? I don't know that guy is on the roster yet. So until he is, I think Ben Powers is pretty safe. Pearl saying, thank you, Zach. Great job. And Scott too. Scott always does an excellent job. Very appreciative for him. What's James the Doc JC saying, good evening, Priest. Caught the tail end of the show. Got to sign Zach Allen and Benito. Not sure about the rest. Absolutely. That's what I'm talking about. It's tough for me, Shiloh, to think about Ben Powers, a guard, when an edge rusher or a defensive end needs a new contract, or your number one wide receiver in Courtland Sutton needs a new contract. So, and I agree with Rodney too. He says, I see JFM out. That is the odd man out. That is the guy that I'd be surprised gets paid if they prioritize all four. That would be my fourth on that list. Let's keep the band together for one more year while they're all under contract. Hopefully they can make the most of it, and we'll talk in January or hopefully February. Kirk Show saying, hi guys. What else? William saying, yeah, I don't care. I never cared for Marshall. Dude was a cancer when he was playing him and Cutler. That's what I was saying. For better or for worse, though, you still remember Brandon Marshall for something. You still know his name. It's still relevant after all these years because he was such an enigmatic player and a damn good receiver. Not to say Courtland Sutton isn't, but Brandon Marshall was good in his heyday as well. All right, I think that's winding it down. I'm just taking one more scroll through the chat. If you guys have any other questions, this is like the 30-second warning before I do the mandatory reads. All right, I'll do that, and then we'll see if you guys have anything else to say, and then we'll get out of here. That was another tremendous episode of the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on X at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account on X at Mile High Huddle. Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott at Scout Kennedy. I realized Chad wasn't here. Kind of freaked me out. If you guys haven't done so yet, please drop us a like at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking each and every single podcast, check out MHHmerch.com and get you some. If you haven't done so, also please drop us a follow on Instagram at mile_high_huddle. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please, you know the drill, solo or duo, subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans, just like you. All right, we got anything else? I think my throat's going, my voice is going too, like usual. All right, I think that's going to do it for us. I see Todd saying, evening Broncos country. Evening to you, Todd. Hope you're having a good night. And apologies again, it was kind of like a half-split show, not our longest show. We'll make it up to you in the future. That is going to do it, though, for this episode. We'll see you Sunday night for another episode of the Mile Huddle podcast. Have a great rest of your Thursday, a great weekend. We'll see you Sunday. Take care, and as always, go Broncos.